Hello and welcome to the Tabletop Gaming Magazine podcast. I'm Chris Eggett, the editor of the magazine, and today I'm joined by Flavien of Hachette Boardgames UK.
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good, all good, thank you.
We've been sitting here. We've been playing a bit of Oltréé today, and I suppose most people won't know who you are, except for those people very lucky to have met you as you roam about the UK. It's a various board game shops.
I did that indeed.
So would you mind explaining who you are, what you're doing, and what your sort of mission is at the moment?
So, as you may have guessed with my accent, I'm French.
It's true. I can confirm there's a French accent.
Yeah, it's not a Yorkshire accent, even if I moved there 7 years ago. Didn't pick it, I don't know why. Lifelong board gamer, and started a business few months ago with Hachette to distribute board games, import games from publishers here in the UK, because as a gamer I thought some were missing a bit on the market and I wanted to share my passion here.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That's right. And so people will know Hachette for, well, let's be honest, 200 years of books, but probably more within our realms for Studio H.
Yes.
That's the internal studio within Hachette, isn't it?
That was the first studio internally created. So 3 years ago, when Hachette decided to move into the board gaming development, which is enough similarity with the books to have the same skills. So Studio H was the first one, but now there's as well Funny Fox, who is a small new. They have a Dinner in Paris or those games. So it's internal thing, and a new studio, but with acquisition.
Yes,
well.
Hachette has been gobbling up lots of really interesting publishers, which has led us to being in the same room together to at least have this conversation, because I think it's super interesting to have such a big player from books enter the market like this, and then to buy people like Scorpion Mask. Sorry, we are French.
Yes.
I don't know why I put a question mark on that. Who else did you buy?
Gimmick.
Gimmick, that's it. So just huge names, and then in terms of Gimmick, that's just a huge company actually. And then to enter the board game market in a way that, because we've seen this with Osprey, haven't we? Here in the UK with their, that's a Bloomsbury owned company, but they mainly focus on RPGs and war games as that's their core. That's how you think of them. And then plus and just like really high end, beautiful board games. And so to have Hachette come in and back a board game outfit to this extent, primarily board games, is just really exciting for us.
Thank you. No, that's it's a lot of passionate board gamers just joining up and doing that. So that's fun. and to have those people helping us with the book publishing skills is good added value, I have to say. No, it's we put out some must-play games. In terms of we've reviewed them as well. Studio H has anyway. Oriflamme. Oriflamme, is that right? Oriflamme.
That got a must-play. That's our highest recommendation possible. We've just been playing Oltréé, which is based on a RPG you haven't played.
Nope.
That I can't read because it's in French. But is a semi-medieval setting.
It's an alternative medieval history. There's a bit of magic in the background. You are knights coming back from adventure in a neglected fortress with all your villages and friends a bit under pressure, under tension. You have you're coming back and you're trying to rebuild that, but you're a bit slowed down by some stories.
That's right.
And you go through that.
Yeah, and so it's Antoine Bauza and
Vincent Dutré.
That's it. That's right. And it's beautiful, and it's got this. It's actually it's just realised. It's just come to me. What it is returning to the Shire. It's returning to the Shire and realising that things have gone wrong, and you're here to fix things up. But it's as a cooperative game, you're doing that thing of running around and making sure everything doesn't fall over while you fix something more important. And we lost our game, didn't we?
Yeah, almost. At one die. We had one chance out of 6. We could. But we lost.
Yeah, I won't spoil that first intro story. But just say I was very surprised by the way it threw up some of the interesting narrative elements. I'm going to just call them. I was completely surprised by it. The whole game's run by rolling some dice to generate a series of kind of like this kind of 4 decks of cards. One of them being the story events, which are your kind of like that's your turn marker in some ways. Also gives you events, and then there's other events around the main board area, which are kind of your classic series of problems for you to fix. But you have to then take your 2 actions a turn to move around and try and sort out. And then there's another deck of just problems.
Yeah. It's the events which break one rule and are always negative.
Yes. Yes. And which are really good. And we were talking about this earlier, but it's kind of a real mix of mechanics.
Yeah, you have. So this first die will pace the game. It will give. So you can just run through, but anyhow, you can go further in the game. And when you have your actions, then you have resource management, cards to read, and the storytelling. But it's more the storytelling and the mechanism to have always implication of the other player who will read the story and offer the choice to the active player.
Yes, that's right.
So you have narrative, resource management, and locations.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yes, that's a good point. Actually, I've sort of internalized that so quickly. The idea that the other person was going to read me the event card that was then the challenge that I had to roll, and then the rolls you there's a success and a failure, and then there's a success with some cost to your life as well. And getting a success is just always good. But having more successes is sometimes better. But sometimes you can commit that extra life for no reason. Or commit that extra success for no reason.
We've been super lucky in our encounter.
Yes, yes, we were very lucky throughout. Very lucky, except for the very end. And yes. So that's Oltréé. And what else is in there that you think is sort of a little bit special?
So the replayability of the game by itself, it pulls you into the story, and you have 7 different stories. So you will choose, and that will impact the length of the game. And you have as well the general quest, which will impact the whole story and the encounters on the villages. Here we played one with a village nature orientated. We could have chosen another thing with more demons or more about there are 5 different decks, 4 or 5. I don't remember, but you mix and match depending of the quest you choose, and that will impact your winning condition as well. And what is fun and exciting when you unfold the stories, you know how you lose, you don't know how you win.
That's right. That's right. Yes, which is kind of an element I think I ignored because, as you pointed out, I was really engaged in like the resource element of it, the building element of it. I was playing like localized Carcassonne is what I was playing. I was like, so let's build something here. There's a guy over there I need to hit. There we go. It was Dungeons and Dragons but Carcassonne, but the thing you pointed out that like maybe in a larger game or a more casual game, say, is that you'd look at the story and you'd say, okay, well, this is hinting towards what we're going to have to do later. So, what should we do now to prepare for that? And I sort of felt like I knew the kind of thing that was going to come through from the story that was led there, but I wasn't entirely sure. But there would be this more like conversational aspect to it that we didn't get to because I was so focused.
Yeah, as a limit as a Eurogamer, but still drew into the story.
Absolutely, yes.
And optimize your resources, and which led to almost a victory.
Yeah, nearly. We nearly got there. I was focused on maybe the wrong thing at the very start. Maybe that was it.
But when I play with my son, who starts the first game super into the story, and he wants to help all the villages, and he will lose his focus, and then you lose the actions.
Yeah,
and so that's you cannot win like that. But then you play straight away, and then you're a bit more guided, and
it's impressive how all these things actually gelled so quickly as well. Because I think that's another thing we were just speaking about before starting this recording is we were talking about the idea that we're seeing this like whole slew of games they've got multiple different mechanics all mixed up. We mentioned obviously Dune Imperium and Lost Ruins of Arnak and Endless Winter and all these games that mix up a bit of deck building and a bit of worker placement. And this has got sort of a bit of role playing, a bit of resource management in a classic Euro way, and then it sort of actually has worker placement.
Because you have your knights.
Yeah, which is lovely.
Thank you. And it helps to be drawn into the story. You have those big, chunky wooden knights you move around. Yeah, so yes, you're right. It's a worker placement in this regard.
Yeah, and so why do you think, as a man creating a Hachette this side of the channel? Hachette Boardgames, sorry, not the entire publishing world of Hachette. They're not entirely on your shoulders, but the board games are. Why do you think we're seeing games like this now? What do you think the drive is, the trend? Why has that appeared for us?
I will answer more as a gamer than as a distributor.
Yeah.
I think that big gamers like us, we delved into a style and designers helped and developed and refined everything, and it reached a point in a pure worker placement. It's optimal. We reached a point where how could you have a better game than what is already on the market? And to enhance that, to bring more pleasure to the table or pleasure, intellectual challenge, depending where you take your pleasure from, then it can be narrative and worker placement.
Yeah.
And then it's how you will bring that will activate a new part of the brain and a new pleasure to the table.
I think that's right. Also, and this is the thing: it's a lighter game despite the number of mechanics. I think that's just because they all integrate in a way that makes sense immediately. And so this is something I spoke to Stanislav Godinsky, the creator of Dice Hospital, amongst other things. Actually, also one of my favourite games, Rurik. If you played Rurik,
I didn't.
That's a proper Waro, so a war game Euro. Set in 10th century. Then it's like a blurry Eastern European area of the Kievan Rus. So it's a really like he seems to do this. He seems to pick these historical, these slightly blurry historical chunks of history and goes, "What if?" And that's kind of where the game's set. Anyway, and he said one of his feelings on this is that people are looking for games that they can introduce people to easier.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
How do you think that's right?
Yeah, it makes sense. And when the mechanics is naturally into a theme, it flows naturally. The rules are coming to the board with, I mean, the ergonomy of games have evolved so much now. You put the game on the table and all the rules are there. And when you teach, you just flow through, and that's natural. And you're one of the, it's just easier, and the games are just streamlined. They're streamlined to be optimal, and that, I think that helps as well to bring new people to the hobby.
Yes, I think so. I think it has to, really, right? If you can say to someone, this is why I think that some people are a little bit down on Lost Ruins of Arnak for not being heavy enough in some ways. I feel, but I think it's great for introducing people to, like, here's 4 different things this hobby's about. If you like one of them, there is a game that's really about that. If you really want a worker placement game, it's there. If you really want deck building, here's Martin Wallace, or others of that caliber. So I think there's like a little buffet for people to say, hey, have a little bit of everything.
No, that's a good way to bring it. Good point.
So what's next for you, and what's next for Hachette Boardgames UK?
So I've started to deliver to the shops only 2 months ago.
Great, yeah.
So that's really recent. So we had our public launch for UKG, which has been a success, and I was so pleased with people queuing to play the games. And
yes, we could barely wave at you.
Because
it was so popular. Both because you had sort of 2 sides of the aisle, didn't you, between Hachette and then also
Studio H.
Yes, it was fabulous. Yeah.
So that, and all people. I mean, gaming is about people. They were all smiling behind the face and thinking and all that. So that was big added value, and so much pleasure from it. And now it will be continue to share that. So from go to the different shops, ensure they have the good information for their customers to share. Obviously signing new games for next year as well.
So what's the next thing you're releasing?
Until the end of the year, we have, apart from Oltréé we've talked about, we have another big Euro, which is Iki. The reprint of the Kickstarter, but which has been totally refined, new art, and all the building rebalanced, all the characters rebalanced, and 2-player board. So if you like a Rondel and big Euros, you'll be into it. We have a new line of game, Carte Aventura, which are it's choose your own adventure storytelling with a historical background.
Yeah, so I just had a little flick through the brochure, and I looked at it and I said, "Is this Seventh Continent Light?" And you were sort of like, "Yeah, sort of, but
yes." There's this strong historical background which helps a lot to feel into the story, and you have 5 alternative ends. So with a 12-pound deck, you can replay, and you have this map extending, and all with aquarels and all that. we start with 2 decks, and the third one will go in production soon. And it's for a simple, nice deck. It's super good and super satisfying and nice, and it plays 1, 2, 3 co-op, and it's beautiful. And that's it's the biggest launch in France this year.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's the biggest sale.
That's interesting.
So
actually, that's a question for you. Sorry, I'm going to wildly veer away from that. I'm just going to ask you what is board gaming like in France, which is a very weird question. But so we talk a lot about how in Germany you can go into a supermarket and you can pick up what we here call a Euro game.
Yes,
any hobby game you can get access to them in the supermarket in a way that you just can't here. They just don't exist.
No.
So what's it like in France? Is France obviously it's going to be better than the UK. We know that. But
different.
Okay.
First, in terms of volume, now it's the biggest market in Europe. So there's a lot more hobby shops. But they are nice. The cafe work well as well, and there's a system of associations where it's where people will just sit, and it's usually organized by the local administration, the city, the town, and you have the volunteers. You have a library. You go in and play. Yeah. And they are backed by shops, but they don't play in the shops. The city will provide a room and a public library of games.
Yeah, and this is just immediately incredible. Just first of all, just the bit where someone involved in the government cares about board games for a start. But yes, the idea that it's a space created by the local administrations, that people can they're actually backing something. Here in the UK, the best places you go to a place like Ludicrous and stuff like that, which are wonderful cafes and shops and incredible experiences, very good, but they're not. But they're still commercial enterprises,
and they need to.
And of course.
In the system, After there's what could be done. Maybe it's the library. You could think of a system where you borrow the games in the libraries. I don't think it started, but it works nicely in France.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea because I mean the government is desperate to close all our libraries anyway. So maybe we need to have a campaign of just you can get rid of the books if you really want, but we'd quite like to have some board games in here.
And from a social point of view, it's you have this. It's called a ludothèque. So it's a place to play, which is funded by the local towns, and it helps as well for young children. So if you have a Saturday afternoon with your children, you go there. You have someone to teach you the game. You spend the afternoon. You can meet other families and borrow the game.
Oh, very good. See, there you go.
So. And you will pay maybe 10, 15 euros a year.
Yeah.
But that's sponsored. And from a social point of view, it helps a lot of families to have this continuous link.
Yeah, that's it. Because I think in terms of access to board games here, like you would go to somewhere like a gaming cafe, but you wouldn't necessarily go there to meet people unless you were being part of a card tournament or you're going to a wargaming event or something like that. That's where you'd be in the spirit of competition somehow, rather than necessarily going there to just meet some people and play some games because you're both sitting there learning it. It's just interesting. It's just interesting that there's a different culture.
And I think it's those structures as well who help the children game to be a bit stronger in France than here, and that's why I've built the catalog with a big offer on children games, because there's so much, and they are accessible for you have really good gaming value for cheap.
That's
and
right.
So that's exciting. There's a lot of creativity in those fields as well. So, but that it's totally different.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And when we moved here 7 years ago, I struggled to find game clubs and to find friends through gaming. But now it's fully, and I have all my friends. And
Do you think it's got better in the UK generally?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no look at the number of small conventions. Every weekend you can go and play somewhere.
That's true.
And the community is super friendly. Without the gaming community, we would have moved back to France. To be fair, no, this really.
Yeah. So, and we wouldn't have Hachette Boardgames UK.
Good. Yes.
So well done, gaming community. You've made it happen. That's great. Well, thank you for coming to talk to me today.
Been a pleasure. Great afternoon.
Where can we find you? See your games?
Any shop soon, and if you don't have them in the shop, ask them to get in touch. I'll be happy to deliver them.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.